Hi guys, welcome to another video. I am only going to address this once. Are luxury bags made in China? Are luxury brands lying to us? What do I think about it? Will I never buy another luxury bag? Am I going to sell all of my things because of this crazy idea that handbags are all made in China? Let's get going. I was not going to do a video on this at all because I am sick to death of hearing about the TikTok videos that are going around about how luxury bags are all made in China, Hermes bags, Louis Vuitton bags, Dior, all of them, and that they then get shipped over, mass produced in China, shipped over to have a stamp put on them to say made in France or made in Italy or wherever, because you can just put that label in and finish something off and then you can deem it as made in wherever. So I wasn't going to bother talking about this because I literally am sick to death of hearing about it. However, I thought I am actually going to address it, and I'm going to address it once and once only. So here are my thoughts. So I have just watched a video by a content creator called Don't Be a Lemon. Now I don't know this this content creator at all. It came up on as a suggested video, and to be fair, I clicked on it because it had a absolute ton of views, and I thought, oh, I'm intrigued by this. Why is this? What is this all about? And yeah, I thought I will address some of the things that the lady in the content creator came up with, because some of it totally agree with and some of it I just don't get. So I thought I will address it. I'm not going to be controversial in this. You guys know I'm just putting, what I like to do in these videos is just put the conversation out there. I'd like to know what you guys think about it, and I will tell you some of my thoughts, but this is not an attack on anything. This is just talking about the subject. So now we've got that disclaimer out of the way, let's just talk about some of the themes in that video. Apparently this video came out before all of the TikTok things about China, but she was talking about some of the same type of themes. So the premise of her video was to say how luxury brands are lying to us, how there's things that they don't want us to know, and she went through a lot of things and how she is done with things that are logoed and all the rest of it. So this is the theme, isn't it? There's so many creators who are jumping on this. I don't want any logos anymore. I don't want luxury things anymore. I won't be buying. I'm going to sell all my things. Obviously we've gone through the whole Lydia Millen thing, which I've done a whole video on that. I'm not going to address that anymore because it is what it is. But yeah, there is a bit of a theme, isn't there? So is this for content creation? Maybe you think my video is for content creation, because it is. Anyway, let's go through some of the ideas. The first thing that she talked about, sorry, I don't know the lady's name, but the content creator, she talked about how they are lying to us about these bags being investments. So we have talked about this so many times on my channel. None of these things are investments. Sometimes we use the word investment because we say we want to invest in a beautiful bag. When I use that word, I use it in the context that I would like to spend my hard-earned money on something and put my money into that. I don't expect a return on my investment because I'm buying a bag. I'm buying a bag that I'm going to use. Now, there are exceptions, as we know, Hermes, scarcity, and we can talk all about that for a million videos if we want to, but certain brands have got into this amazing genius branding, marketing, where they make it so difficult to get a certain bag that it commands more than it's worth, more than it cost. On the resale market, it is few and far between. We all know that when we buy a bag, it's not going to bring us any more money. We are lucky to get any money back for it should we want to sell. But I do want to, I'll come back to this point because it also talks about, her video also talks about margins and markups and all of the rest of it. So let's circle back to that in a little while. But I don't think anybody's lying to us. Who is telling us that these bags are actual investments? Well, there are, I don't know who is lying. Who is lying? I'm not sure who is lying to us, because who is actually saying that these bags are an investment? Well, as in you will get a return on your investment, because the fashion brands, the luxury houses themselves, they're not telling us in anything, I don't think, that these are an investment. They're creating business opportunities. They're making their items more desirable by using scarcity and different branding and marketing ideas and all of that. But yeah, surely that is just part of business and part of trying to make your brand more desirable than somebody else's brand, for example. That is, in some respects, what business is about. We're trying to sell our goods, whether it's goods or services or whatever it is. Surely that is just marketing. So nobody's lying about that. Now, whether this lady is referring to influencers, content creators who come onto the internet and tell you that, yes, if I sold this, it would be an investment, or, you know, maybe, just try not to drop the bag. Maybe if I come on here and tell you that I will definitely get more for this than I paid for it, I'm not probably lying in that respect, because I probably will. But if I told you that I would for this one, then maybe I would be lying, because I know I won't be getting more than I paid for that one, because it just doesn't hold its value, the Louis Vuitton Capucine. So I don't know whether there is a narrative out there. I don't think people are so gullible. I think you guys should, I think we should be given a lot more credit that we all know that these bags are not investments, except the rare pieces that we all know about. Let's talk about the markup or the margin. Now, I am an accountant, so this is right up my street. I'm not going to go into masses of detail about how business works, how accounts work, how you work out margins and markups and whatever else, because that's not what you guys are here for. I can do a whole video. In fact, I can do a whole series of videos if anybody would want to listen to that, but it's pretty boring. In my world it's not, but for you guys it'd be pretty boring. But what I will say about this is nothing new. Of course, you can choose any bag. Let's just pick this one. We know, I think I paid in the region of £6,000, nearly £7,000 for this. This is the Birkin 25, and it is absolutely beautiful. Anyway, I think that most people know that this doesn't cost anywhere near that to produce. Of course it doesn't. It is leather. It is not precious goods. It's not made with diamonds or solid gold or something that is in itself worth something. These are all just pieces of material, of fabrics, of leathers, of hardware, of brass. I don't even know what this is made out of, but it isn't solid gold. We know that this doesn't cost anywhere near the price that they charge. We know that, surely. So we can circle back to why do we buy it then, but we'll come on to that. But I don't think anybody thinks that this costs maybe, I don't know, £5,000 to produce, and they're selling it for £7,000. Surely that's a reasonable markup or margin. Well, no, it's not, because if you guys know, and I'm sure most of you do, if you know anything about business, you know that most things, most goods and services have huge margins and markups. Some are completely, it all depends. Certain things have a higher margin, certain things have a lower margin. And how it works is that if you're in a business that has a lower margin product, you rely on volume in order to make any money, because that's the only way. If you have something that's higher value, you have to sell less of them. So you're not selling volume. It's more scarce products. So I can go into it. I won't bore everybody because I really will go off on a tangent. But we all know that most goods and services across the world, if you actually knew, if you saw people's accounts for any goods and services that you want to even choose, you would be horrified probably of the actual margin of making the product. So actually working out the leather, the metal, the thread, whatever else, it's the actual materials, and then the bit of labour of putting it together. If you just look at that in isolation compared to the price that the bag is sold for, you'd be horrified. You would be absolutely horrified, because that is just the gross margin. Again, very technical. Under that, there are a million other costs, overheads, administrative expenses. There are so many other costs that go towards selling whatever these brands sell. There's marketing, there's overheads, as in rent and rates and other wages. You have to remember there's other people working there, not just the people who are actually physically making the bags. There are marketing budgets, there's interest, there's a million other things. And I think most of the fashion houses, they will have huge marketing budgets, absolutely huge, because that is a big part of branding. That is absolutely part of their plan. So yes, they are still making lots of money, don't get me wrong, they are still making lots of profits, but it's just on a bigger scale and on a piece that is a lot more, we're more aware of these pieces. If you looked at any high street store and looked at some of the, just choose any clothing, any bag, anything in any high street store, you might see a bag, or say a top, a jumper that is £35, and you think, well, that's not a bad price. If you knew how much that cost to produce, it could possibly be pennies. It could be a couple of pounds. Now, if you in percentage terms look at that, it's absolutely horrific, but it's the same. It's the same. They are just relying on their smaller numbers, so they need more volume. So all I'm saying is, I think that luxury goods get a lot of attention because of what they are. And yes, the higher scale of it means that it is a ridiculous amount of money, and they are making on each bag a ridiculous amount of profit. Of course they are. But as I say, it's the same for so many goods and services in the whole world. I think people don't often think about that. Now, whether you believe that businesses should be in business in order to make money, and therefore you can see that they are always trying to cut costs and increase the retail price of the bag in order to maximize profits, you may think that that's a good thing. You may think that that's a bad thing. That's a whole other argument. I just want to be very, very clear on this. I am not saying that all firms should be maximising their profits over everything else. Hopefully it is not their primary objective. Hopefully they are looking after their workers and making sure the work environment is good and all of the rest of it. I am not advocating for profit at all costs, but just bear in mind that most companies will want to make some profit. What happens with the luxury houses is that they make so much profit. They are the biggest conglomerates in the world. LVMH, I mean, my goodness, it speaks for itself. So of course it is highlighted about all these different bags. I'll just grab a Louis Vuitton bag, seeing as we're talking about LVMH. Of course they are making huge profits. They are, but it is, as a consumer, it is our choice whether to buy these things or not. So I don't like the fact of blaming. I think just make your own choices. If you don't like the practices of a certain company, don't buy from them. If you think the prices are absolutely crazy, don't buy. It is your choice. You make your mark with where you spend your money. If somebody like me still loves the bag, still wants to buy it, I know that this costs a fraction of what I've paid for it to be produced, but I still want it and I still am happy to pay it. So that is the end of the argument. So let's address the China situation, and then we can put it all to bed and we never have to talk about it ever again. Do I believe that all Hermes bags are made, mass produced in China, shipped over to France for a couple of finishing touches and a stamp? No, I don't believe that. I don't. I think that Hermes, I think there's enough information out there for us to know that Hermes bags are made in France. And I know the lady in this video was talking about she was talking about all the different brands, so not just Hermes, and she was saying that when it says made in Italy or made in France, she imagines a little artisan in a workshop. It's just not realistic, is it? It really isn't realistic. I know for a fact that Louis Vuitton have workshops in France in which they do that. The artisans are, in fact, I've got friends that have actually visited these places. They do exist, but they are only for the very special pieces, the trunks, some exotics, and some of the higher end bags. The mass produced, and we'll come back to mass produced, canvas pieces from Louis Vuitton, if you see how many, if you think about how many Louis Vuitton stores there are across the world and the amount of products that they produce, it is unbelievably huge. It is absolutely huge. So these have to be mass produced in order to meet that demand. How many stores, even just in England? How many in the USA? There are multiple stores across the world. How many Speedies are sold even every day? We've no idea, but it's a lot, isn't it? So these are not going to be made by one little man in a workshop, just hand making every single piece. It's not possible. It's not realistic for a business to do that unless they are literally selling a few pieces and the special pieces, and that's it. So Louis Vuitton have kept some of their workshops for that purpose, for the special pieces. The rest of it is mass produced, and they do hand finish them, but they are mass produced. And is that a shock? No, that is how they must do it. It is impossible for these not to be on some sort of production line. Now, do I believe they're all mass produced in China and then sent over? No, I think this is TikTok at its finest. And I just think that you guys aren't as gullible as that to believe just some, what looks like very AI inspired TikTok videos. Do you think that these producers of these bags, if these factories were making these for Hermes, do you think they'd put it out that they're doing that? They wouldn't get any more orders, would they? It doesn't make any sense to me. So what do I think about it in general? I think the luxury brands could be more transparent. They're not going to tell you the margins on things, nor should they. That is their business, that is their accounts, and that is for them to know. For the consumer, it is up to us if we pay that or not, and that is as much right as we have. I do think they should be more transparent with the made in France or made in Italy. I think that is a bit of a loophole, and I think it does create a little bit of a narrative that these are all made, you know, all in the same country and everything else. And yes, so they could be more transparent with that, but that is more regulation around what they need to do. And I think they could definitely be more transparent. I think the luxury houses could be more transparent on certain things. I don't think they need to be releasing every aspect of margins on every bag and letting you know that. You know, no other company does that. No other, whatever you choose. Let's look at Apple. Let's just look at Apple, another huge conglomerate. Nobody comes on the internet and talks about Apple and says, how much is this phone? This phone cost £1,000 for a new iPhone 16 or whatever it is. Yeah, this probably costs about £20 to make. And the components are all from China. Well, there's something about luxury bags in particular that really gets under people's skin, but it's the same with cars, it's the same with anything. It's the same with, you can choose any sort of goods, but yeah, we all talk about bags for some reason. It really triggers a lot of people. Where does this leave me? Well, I love luxury bags, I do. And is it gonna, all this publicity, is it gonna change anything for me? No. I am well aware of what happens behind the scenes. It is, I think for me, I'm just very realistic. I've been in the business world for a lot of years, and I think we all just should know. I think we're all not that gullible. Maybe some people out there are, I don't know. But for me, yeah, nothing's changed. Of course, some of these things are mass produced. Of course, they are ridiculous prices. Of course. But I choose to pay that because I enjoy it. and that is the top and bottom of it. If somebody doesn't want to be seen in logos anymore, that's a personal choice. I still love a logo. I'm going back to basics and I'm loving a logo. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on another one.